Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited Saudi Arabia on Tuesday to talk peace and the return of prisoners of war from Russia.
Polish farmers carried out their largest protest yet on Tuesday, taking over streets in the capital.
Planes have airdropped boxes of aid into Rafah and Khan Yunis, where hundreds of Palestinians gathered to try and get some of the assistance falling from the sky over the Gaza Strip. Egypt, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar and France airdropped tons of humanitarian aid. It would normally go through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt. Where there is food to be had, it's 2 spoonsful per person. That's what is being handed out by social organisations trying to help the hundreds of displaced families who fled Gaza's north. A month ago, the International Court of Justice demanded that Israel take the necessary steps to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza. But according to a number of agencies, including UNICEF, the Red Cross and Oxfam, the situation has only worsened. At the latest session of the UN Security Council, the focus was on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. During the discussions, 2 human rights groups accused Israel of continuing to block aid despite the ICJ ruling. Amnesty International says the number of aid tracks have also decreased by 1/3.
Thank you for convening today's debate.
As work continues on trying to get a ceasefire agreed, the Israeli military says its combat soldiers have been operating in Gaza City's Zaytun area in the northern Gaza Strip over the last week. They said they had encountered terrorists and located weapons. Meanwhile, both Hamas and Israel have poured cold water on US President Joe Biden's hopes of a truce by Monday. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky arrived in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday for talks with the kingdom's powerful crown prince as the Ukrainian leader pushes for a peace plan and the return of prisoners of war from Russia. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has sought to position himself as a potential mediator, even as Riyadh remains closely aligned with Russia on energy policies. Zelensky is headed for Albania next. Zelensky's trip comes as Kyiv's forces are slowly being pushed back in eastern Ukraine. Within the Zaporizhia region, the Ukrainian army is striving to push back advancing Russian forces despite facing an ammunition shortage. Each day, Russian troops make slight advancements. A new defensive line has been created in just a few days. 3 kilometers from the front, the Ukrainians have set up dragon's teeth to stop the Russian tanks. Ukrainian forces claim to have shot down a Russian Su-34 fighter jet on the eastern front. It would be a rare plus for Ukraine if this was confirmed. Ukraine is expected to remain short of ammunition and on the back foot in its war with Russia for several months until the West sorts out further support.
The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, arrived today in Tirana for the first time. He was received by the Albanian Prime Minister Edi Rama and will take part in the summit of Southeast Europe countries, with a focus in the situation on Ukraine. Several agreements have been signed between Albanian and Ukrainian governments in the field of economic and international cooperation.
Domaćini samita Jugoistočna Europa, Ukrajina u Tirani su albanski premijer Edi Rama i ukrajinski predsjednik Volodymyr Zelenski. Iako je bilo najavljeno učešće predstavnika 13 zemalja, za sada ih je ovdje samo 8. Za sada nema predstavnika Bugarske i Grčke. Tema razgovora na ovom samitu jeste rat u Ukrajini i kako zemlje Jugoistočne Europe mogu pomoći Ukrajini u ovoj trenutnoj situaciji. Za sutra je najavljen samit Zapadni Balkan Evropska unija, na kome će se raspravljati o planu Evropske unije za rast Zapadnog Balkana.
Polish farmers took to the streets of the country's capital on Tuesday, carrying out their largest demonstration yet. Parliamentary Speaker Szymon Hołownia reportedly said their demands will be met. Poland's farmers oppose the EU's Green Deal and the influx of Ukrainian agricultural products, which they say are undermining prices at home. According to city authorities, 10,000 people participated, but organizers claim the figure was closer to 50,000. The Polish parliamentary speaker told farmers that any matter tabled in the lower house would be taken care of.
Nikomu nie chodzi dzisiaj, mam wrażenie, o to, żeby doprowadzić polskie bezpieczeństwo żywnościowe i polskich rolników do upadku, a z drugiej strony trzeba mieć świadomość, że nie wszystko idzie tak, jak powinno iść, skoro wzburzenie i skoro ten gniew i ta sytuacja, którą wyrażacie dzisiaj na tym proteście, dojrzała do takiego momentu, że zamiast być ze swoimi rodzinami, zamiast być w swoich gospodarstwach, zamiast zajmować się prowadzeniem swoich biznesów, swoich gospodarstw, przychodzicie do Warszawy.
Despite the discussions, a spokesperson for the farmers said talks were unsatisfactory, whilst Kyiv denies their exports are creating risks for the Polish market.
Ми сподіваємося, що польська сторона зможе знайти ті рішення, які дозволять врегулювати ситуацію всередині країни. А з нашого боку, я можу сказати, що ситуація повністю контрольована. Ми своїх зобов'язань дотримуємося і не створюємо жодного ризику для польського ринку.
Meanwhile, Poland's farmers said that if their demands are not met, they will paralyze the country and stage another major protest in Warsaw on March 6.
"308 migrants from East Africa have been transferred from the French overseas territory of Mayotte to a castle in mainland France, despite local opposition. They all come from the illegal camp located near the Cavani Stadium in Mamadzou. Many are women and children. Most of them have been taken to a 17th century chateau just west of Paris. The mayor of the commune says no negotiations took place on the matter.
Je me dis que la crise à Mayotte, c'est pas nouveau. Et que je suis un peu étonné qu'on prenne des décisions comme ça aussi rapidement.
Locals want to help, but some show their concern.
Ça peut servir là, à l'heure actuelle, autant que ça serve à des personnes qui sont dans le besoin.
C'est pour mettre des gens à l'abri, j'ai dit que c'est très bien. Après, il ne faut pas que ces gens restent là parce que nous, on n'a pas assez d'infrastructures dans notre village pour les garder.
The controversial decision was taken by Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin.
UK cancer patients have a lower rate of survival compared to Norway, Canada and Australia due to what treatment is used on patients, according to two new studies led by UCL researchers. Only 27.7% of lung cancer patients in the UK were treated with chemotherapy, compared to 45 in Norway, 41 in Australia and 35 in Canada, finding that the UK is less likely to use chemotherapy and radiotherapy to treat patients.
A message in a bottle. It sounds like a fairy tale or song title. Instead, it is what a resident of Bacoli in South Italy found one day while taking a walk on his favorite beach.
Col mare ho instaurato un rapporto esclusivo, come se fosse un amico con il quale confidarsi, con il quale appunto trovare anche delle risposte. E questo rapporto è andato avanti fino ai miei 38 anni e ancora oggi credo che il mare sia il mio migliore amico.
The sea sent Dario an unexpected message from the Balearic Islands in Spain. It was written by an 11-year-old child talking about himself and his passions.
Circa 2000 miglia marine e 3 mesi dopo, una bottiglia affidata al mare delle isole Baleari arriva su questa spiaggia. Nel tempo della comunicazione veloce ed effimera di internet e dei social, un messaggio nella bottiglia ha un sapore particolare per chi lo invia e per chi lo riceve.
It was destiny that, after a long and perilous journey, the bottle ended up in the hands of someone who appreciated its content.
Io dal mare spesso cerco delle risposte e arrivare a leggere una lettera da un bambino è come se il mare mi avesse dato una risposta forte, un messaggio ben chiaro scritto appunto da un bambino di 11 anni e quindi questa cosa mi ha veramente molto emozionato.
Amid media coverage in Spain, Dario managed to get in touch with the child's parents.
Il padre, oltre a ringraziarmi, però poi ci ha tenuto a sottolineare l'importanza di mantenere la corrispondenza col bambino attraverso le lettere, la corrispondenza postale, come lui mi ha scritto proprio old school. Quindi io, oltre a rispettare molto questa cosa, reputo che sia appunto proprio quello il senso di tutto questo.
Dario expects to meet the 11-year-old soon to tell him more about himself.
La mia speranza è quella proprio di un domani di andare lì a Maiorca, di incontrarlo, stringergli la mano e raccontargli quella che è un po' appunto è la mia vita, la mia terra, che probabilmente è molto simile alla sua, con gli stessi colori, gli stessi paesaggi, lo stesso mare.
Luca Palamara per Euronews, Bacoli, Napoli.
President Joe Biden and Donald Trump have won their respective Democrat and Republican primaries in Michigan, but uncommitted votes are a concern for Biden. Grassroots organizations urge Democrats and Arab Americans to send Biden the message, no ceasefire, no vote, over the war in Gaza. Meanwhile, former President Donald Trump claimed a fifth consecutive victory over rival Nikki Haley. It means the pair are on course for a rematch in this year's presidential election.
Daft Punk, the legendary electronic music duo, are the new stars of New York's Madame Tussauds Museum. The wax figures are dressed in personalized replicas of the Saint Laurent smoking tuxedo suits designed by Hedi Slimane for the Random Access Memories project. Thomas Bangalter and Guy Manuel de Homem Christo are the two men behind Daft Punk, hitmakers who have dominated the music charts with tracks like One More Time, Around the World and Get Lucky.